Yeah, you're doing better than the blue jackets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We don't know about blue jackets right now. Okay, last chance. Okay, with that, we'll do a ticket drawing. I think the deck is pretty thin now.
Yeah.
So the odds are getting pretty decent here. So tickets 31170.
Is it? Very good. Well. I guess this. It's not really.
Just a quick announcement tonight, Beavercreek boys basketball team, at home against Fairmont, game time 7:30.
Rose. Jeez.
Wow. So many cards are left in that deck.
Very few. But I did check, card is still in there.
Okay, I feel silly here. I just realized, I think I might have typed my notes wrong here, so I'm gonna go to the SharePoint really quick. Basically, I have a good link to the SharePoint on my phone. What's today's date? The six, okay, it is P Landrum. Okay, I was losing my mind. I was like, I was wondering, is that your next week? Okay, I saw you had like, I think it was the slide deck in front of me that really concerned me. I was like, oh man, did I mess this up? The agent was prepared for something else. Okay, that's good. So where's Pete Bales? We'll give it over to Pete for the introduction here.
Thank you. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce Pete Landrum, our city manager, and he's got a really a tough job to do, managing the operations of the entire city and then putting up with 7 bosses, which can always be challenging, but he does a great job. He's presented this presentation to council before, and so it is fantastic, all that we've been able to do in 2022, and then looking forward to 2023, we've got some amazing things planned for the city. So let's give it up for Pete Landrum.
All right, let me get this going over here real quick.
I like that thing coming outside. And then. See that.
It's wonderful and technology works. All right, Brian Lampton, thanks for the update on the texting thing. I was reading the article while driving over. The only other thing I will say is I find that national days, he said, you guys all got hung up on the cuddling, but when they said National Bean Day and the National Cuddling, that disturbed me worse. And then Chief's favorite joke during this presentation, his favorite joke that I tell to start presentations is that, okay, here's the joke. I'll be brief. Actually, this is actually pretty brief. I went from a little over an hour in presentations to this presentation in city council from beginning to end, including a video, 20 minutes. So it's I'll get started here, and then that way we'll leave time for questions. The state of the city, this is just it does a budget overview, what we did, the appropriations, but it does a review of 2022, a review of the budget, and then of course 2023 looking forward. And this also includes the capital improvement budget, the 5-year capital improvement budget, and a review of city-owned properties. So I'm just going to go through a lot of these. I'm not going to. You do have copies on your table, and also on your table, second set of copies is part of the capital improvement plan. It's a summary, higher level summary of main projects that we will be doing, road projects, stormwater projects. They include the grant funding and what funds and when they're going to start. So have a look at that if you're curious, because I'm not going to go in depth on those. But if you're curious what projects are coming up this next year and over the next couple of years, you'll be able to review that. Again, all this information started back in July, really preparing for the budget. We always start in July at the council management strategy session that we have with the 7 council members. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we had public budget work sessions on November 16th and 21st, which virtually, I don't know, 1 or 2 people attended. That's it. So we always encourage participation, but rarely. We did a great job at advertising it and telling people if you're concerned about the budgets and the directions of the city, come to these, and we allow questions and public input. Nothing. So I guess people are comfortable where we are until they're not. All right, so just real quick, here's all of our funds that we have, and these include capital funds as well. And basically the purpose of this slide is to show that City Council has a 20% minimum on our fund balances for operating funds. Now, the capital improvement funds that are for capital only, it doesn't matter if it's drained, if it's for capital, that's what it's meant to be for. But for operating, we want to maintain a 20% value, which we have achieved on that. And this is, I will say, the largest budget. When I get to the expense side and revenue side, largest budget the city of Beavercreek has ever had. 2 reasons. On the expense side, at least, we're budgeting a little over $4 million in ARPA funds, and as well the new street levy that just passed. I think it ended up passing by 100 votes after so many recounts, but that recount wasn't really due to us. We had to have recounts because of the threshold, but ours was never in doubt. But those 2 reasons make this budget the largest budget the city has ever had, which is a good thing. I mean, we're spending our includes grants. So let's have a look at this. Property tax, 55.7%. That's our main revenue source. I will say this, our main property tax, 90% of that property tax value that you see, 90% are fixed levies. Fixed levies, meaning your valuation on your home. When the state county auditor says your home is now worth 20% more, the city doesn't get 20% more of your home. With fixed levies, I compared it to a cruise ship with deck chairs. If out of that 90% of that dollar, we have 100 deck chairs. Even with a 20% appraisal of your home that goes up, we still only get 100 deck chairs. Now the deck chairs may be arranged, instead of 50 being on this side and 50 being on this side, it may be 75 deck chairs over here and 25 deck chairs over here. But property reappraisals, reevaluations do not impact the inside millage, which only accounts for 10% of that property tax number, do not impact the city's revenues. So a lot of people think that the city makes out on that. We do not. We do not. That's an important point to note out. Also, if you note too, through all the road projects and through all that, 8.9%, nearly 9% of the funding of the total funds we get are in grants. We will continue to be aggressive in grants. One thing I will say about grants and road projects overall, our priority on road projects, you know what depends on the priority of road projects? It is not the condition of the road. It is which road project can we get grant money for. Our grant money drives our priorities.
Which a lot of times has to do with accidents.
Which do have to do with accidents and congestion, street counts, number of road counts. But if there was a road and they're planning that needs work done, we may not have the money for it. It doesn't score well on grants. We can't get funding for it. Although we'd like to do it, it may be in worse shape than other roads that we're doing that we can get grant money for. It's just the nature of the beast. But that's our 46.2 million in revenue. I'll go on through here. I think I just pretty much stated all that. 50.4 million is the expense side. And again, if you look at this, the enormous amount of street maintenance and capital, 43.6%. All, we're the next to Trotwood, because now Trotwood, that they incorporated the township, they're like 30 square miles, Trotwood is now. Now they don't have nearly the infrastructure we do because they're mostly a lot of farm. But compared to Dayton and then Trotwood, 57.7 or 27.7, 57, I'm including the township, 27.7 square miles of infrastructure. We're the third largest city by square miles in infrastructure. So that's why 43.6 million, $22.4 million of it, 43.6% of our total budget spent there, followed by public safety. And one thing I want to point out, the general fund, which I said receives the inside millage, that part of the property tax that can change according to appraisals. Keep that in mind, that when appraisals go down, that impacts us as well. So fixed levies, when 2007 happened and 8, 9 property values all dropped, the levies do help us. The fixed levies do help with stability because the city still remains to receive the exact same amount. But the general fund would drop. So when you're looking at all of this entire budget, all of these are basically in levy funds, which are restricted and can only be used. So those emergency funds and those funds that funds the administrative part, funds finance, payroll, HR, me, city council, all those general things are the general fund. 6.7% of the entire budget. The general fund is not a significant part of the city's budget, although it's very vital. And it is the only one that has flexibility of providing. So when the tornado happened, the general fund loaned the street department basically money to continue to operate, because once we blew through the 20% reserves, we literally, and the commissioners know, we had phone calls into them saying we may need to borrow money because we just did not. The police fund could be sitting over here on, it's not, okay, but it could be sitting on $10 million, and we can't take one dime of that to shift over here, even in a natural disaster emergency. So anyway, that's the expenses. And then by budget category, a lot of cities you'll see this being the number one, personnel, but we're only 35.1%. Capital, contractual, look at how large, those are over half of the expenses of the city. And that is road projects, street projects, and some contractual. And let's see, we're being with the the street levy we are adding this year. Over the time, we are adding 5 additional public service workers, which will help with snow removal, which will help with potholes, street maintenance, repair. We've been at the same level of maintenance workers basically since 2000 or prior, and you know how much the city's grown. So that is definitely going to help us in that regards. We also bought the 148-acre park. We're in the middle of a new park master plan. Hopefully we'll have some results by May. The ARPA funds, like I said, we did budget $4.1 million in this budget for that. That we'll be doing some major stormwater, and it's in on the second page, I believe. You'll see Willowcrest and Vineland are 2 major stormwater projects. They're going to total nearly $4 million by themselves for 2 projects. They're major projects and long overdue. But stormwater is one issue that the city, no matter how much street levy you raise, we have 0 funding for street levies. Stormwater beside a street or part of the street is included. But when you get stormwater that's behind your house and away from that, the city has 0 revenue sources, 0 revenue dollars to do anything with stormwater. Okay, so, and a lot of this places, we're dealing with stormwater as a major issue. We are called Beavercreek, right? But a lot of the issues that we deal with are from, not to throw Alex under the bus, but the township days, back when we were township, and it was township roads and it was open ditch. And now, development has happened and you pay the consequences of, we didn't know what we didn't know back then, right? Back in the 50s and 60s and 40s and, when Beaver Creek was young. All right, so moving on. 5-year capital plan was included. I'll show you all where all this information is, but you have a little snippet of your 5-year plan in your hand on that one handout. But it includes street traffic, buildings, lands, parks, recs, pedestrian, golf, and stormwater improvements, which we are in the middle of doing a stormwater master plan for the entire city. We haven't done it really since 1983. Why haven't we done it since 1983? Why do you pay $100,000 for a study that's going to sit on a shelf because you have no money to do anything with it? That's why we haven't done it. But now that we're doing some projects with that $4 million, we went ahead and do it, and it helped us identify further ones if there are any additional funding that happens to come down. Because we're putting more money where our mouth is. We say we need help with infrastructure. When we get the ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan, we put it where it belongs, where we've been saying all along that it's needed. All right, so these are all the city properties we have. A lot of perks. This right here is the new park, the 148 acre, besides the 10 acre carve out there. That's exciting. Like I said, that information is going to become probably in mid-May or so. So be watching city council meetings and presentations. We had many public input, couple public inputs, couple surveys that went out during this last quarter of the year, and I got a lot of great input. City council is also working on the new name of the new park, and that should be coming soon as well. All right. So here, where's the remote for the TV? Well, I don't know if this will pick up or not, but we'll see. All right, Katie created, I went to her in October. I said, I got to find a new way of shortening my message. And a lot of the way is that by the highlighting the accomplishments of 2022, let's create a video showing what staff and what the community has done in the previous years. So enjoy this. Everybody's seen it and loves it. So great job, Katie. Let's see here. I'm doing it sound. Everybody for it. Video,
I think you said that's on that website,
Do on the city YouTube channel.
on our website, and I'll try to show that here in a minute. Everything you have is on our website, and under government, when you go under there, you'll see city manager, and you see state of the city. The budget book, the capital book, the handout that you have, all of the video, this video, the actual state of the city, when I presented it to the city council, all that is available on one webpage for you to view at your own leisure. So yeah, great job. So I mentioned this earlier, that in July, we have the council management strategy session. And during that time this past July, we had something a little different. We had a facilitator come in. And the facilitator, I wanted city council to have a different voice than them always hearing from me. Sometimes they might get deaf to what I say because I am on auto repeat sometimes. And so I thought it was a good for them to hear another voice so that I can hear them clearly. That's the big thing, for me to hear and staff to hear from city council. So they came up with this vision statement, which actually they adopted later in August 22nd. The city of Beavercreek is a safe, vibrant community dedicated to serving the needs of the residents, embracing the opportunities of tomorrow. So that a lot is going to be built around that. Here's us having right at Lofino Plaza, having, this is what it looks like when you have a facilitator and everybody's sitting around. From this strategy session, we also developed strategic priorities. So city council gave us priorities. When we have the strategic priorities, then we know what to do with goals and objectives from a department side, from a city manager side. Okay, so I take the priorities that city council wants, then I can build upon the goals and objectives. And that's what happened this year. So I'm not going to read each one of these because you have it in front of you, but diversified and sustainable revenue is a priority. Engaged and informed community is a priority. Planned infrastructure, priority. Right-sized workforce, priority. And family-friendly parks are all a priority. And again, in the budget book, under each section, there's a police department, public service, golf, general fund. Under each one of those tabs in the budget book are these priorities, and under each of the priority is the goals and objectives for that department to meet the priorities. Okay. And then final thoughts for 2023. See how am I doing? See? Oh man, I got another 10 minutes. I can just go on. Final thoughts for 2023. Police levy failed. There is nothing on the ballot, so I can say a little bit more freedom, because when it goes back on the ballot, you will virtually hear nothing from the city besides facts that our legal department says is the only thing we're allowed to say.
That's their opinion.
That's their opinion, but
That's not the ruling of the state.
that's their opinion, but I will say this. I will say this. I'm not going to be criminally charged. And
If you give the facts, it's easier.
we
You won't be.
will try to do as much as we can, that's for sure. But yeah, with those that know what happened in Bellbrook, that really our legal advice and legal counsel clamped down on us, and it's frustrated the mess out of us. Because we feel like we're not doing the job of educating, not advocating, but educating. And our attorneys have said, facts can be seen as advocating. Trying to argue that point with an attorney. So sorry about them, Dave. Dave, I'm sorry. So final thoughts for 2023. The police levy, council is going to be determining that this month. They'll start talking about it actually on Monday. But this is what, yes, it went with the building and 5 additional is what it was, the 2.5 mils. Without the building, it seems like a building is what caused heartburn for a lot of people. It's desperately needed. Chief will tell you, do a walkthrough with Chief. He'll show you the building. In 1997, when the police moved into that building, renovated building, or partly renovated building, it was too small in 1997. And now we've been there. So we have 50 sworn officers. Chances are they'll be putting on a levy, continuing to ask for 5 additional. Anybody want to guess at how many officers are on the street of the 3rd largest square mile of city in this region? Anybody want to take a guess from down past the Green to up past Colonel Glenn?
4 or 5, 2.
4 to 6 officers on duty, and a lot of the police calls that they get require 2 officers, so that's a lot of coverage. So 5 officers really, when you include vacation, sick leave, and workers' comp and things like that, injury leave, when things happen, really it only puts 1 more officer on the street for each shift is really what you're getting. So it's not like Chief will tell you the FBI stats say we should have 68 officers. So, we're only asking for 55, or will be. So anyway, police does a great job, but that's a concern for 2023 because 2024, by the time we get to that fund balance projections, it's been 9 years since we've had additional funding in the police department. Since the last levy, and the only way we've been able to float was because of CARES money that we gave $1.7 million of CARES money to the police, and $350,000 for ARPA funds went to the police to help pay for some cruisers. So it's been a little difficult, but that's how we've been able to stretch the police dollars. Next up, new park. Again, this is going to it'll be exciting to see the next steps, what the council decides the next steps are for this, but the master planning process should wrap up around mid-year. And of course, infrastructure, that's Willowcrest there. That's what it does when it drizzles out. I'm kidding, drizzles, but when we get a good rain, that's not uncommon to see. And so we hope to get these infrastructure projects bid out this year and construction next year. Because these are big projects. Again, this Willow Crest will probably run from $2 million to $2.5 million for the one project. So good sized project. And again, the website, everything's available on the website. I thank staff, I thank city council for a wonderful partnership, and they are great bosses to have. It's an honor to serve the residents of Beavercreek, and I just want to show you one last thing, and if I can. Okay, so if everybody see this, right? When you go to Beavercreek, and if you go to government, you see city manager and you see state of the city. When you go to state of the city, then there's the state of the city. There is the video to watch the actual state of the city, and you can scroll on down. There's that video for the accomplishments. And then down below, there's the budget, there's the 5-year, there's the capital summary. You have a PDF version of the state of the city and an actual list of the 2022 accomplishments. So I'll take any questions. I know, a lot of information, and you have it before you, and you say, oh, I forgot to ask a question. Any questions?
I'm gonna bring a softball. So you keep renewing all these levies. How come you don't have more money?
The beginning of the city has never had enough money to operate, to take care of this infrastructure.
I would say
From day one.
explain the renewal.
Well, we're no longer renewals. That's one thing that's happened since I've been here in 6 years. I'm now in my 7th year city manager. But when I first came, 84% of all the levies were temporary. How do you fund a city with 84%? And you want good people to come work for you, right? The police officers, if the police levy doesn't happen, to get people to apply, people are already saying, well, the city of Beavercreek's great to work for and all, but they gotta depend on the levy to pass, or there will be, last one hired, first one fired, so to speak. So we may not get good candidates that come even to work for us because of our funding situation. But since then, all our levies are permanent levies, which give us stability. But property taxes will never, on the last, I don't know, go back 40 years, our creation of the city, property taxes grow on average 1.5%, maybe as high as 2% a year. That's it. With that, when you talk about how much does new cars cost, how much does electric cost, how much does gas cost, how much do you have to pay your employees, health insurance, so on and so forth, the cost of, even regular inflation will always outdrive property tax increases. It doesn't matter how many, we have thousands, literally. City of Beavercreek, watch the news, all these new companies and these defense contractors getting all these millions of dollars of grants and hiring all these high tech. Oh, look at all those employees. It doesn't mean a thing to us because we get zero income from the income. People look at the hospital. Look, all of that money you're getting from the hospital, they're tax exempt. We get nothing. We get nothing but wear and tear on our streets and our infrastructures and demand for service. So eventually, I think one of these days, people are going to understand there is an alternative way. I will just say that. And without getting political, and I'll say it here, and I know it's recording, but I'll say it. I'm an ultra conservative. It's funny when I'm always called a liberal, and yet I'm an ultra conservative. I match the average of what Greene County would be considered. And I don't like spending money. But I know something that my fellow people that might agree with me 99.99%, I know something they don't. I know the reality of the numbers and what we're actually doing. And a lot of the online stuff make accusations that just simply aren't true. And it's a struggle. One thing when I hit the door 6 years ago, I said, wow, I don't know how the city does it. I don't, it's a shoestring break away from disaster. Every day is how we live. And we're in a lot better shape with the permanent levy, because before, every time there was a levy, it was one vote away from not having funding for the police or streets or whatever. But we're in a lot more stable, but we will always be back every 5 years or more for streets, parks, police. We're always going to be back, because when the inflationary value passes up the revenue increase, you're always going to be back, even if you changed nothing. No service levels have changed, nothing. The status quo, you're always going to be back every 5 years or so, because the inflationary is going to outdrive your revenue base. And if there was an income tax, so to speak, and you're getting new jobs, you're getting all these high wages, those grow. You know, if you look at city Kettering and some of all those, they're having 7, 8, 10% increases in income tax. And that's helping them strive off of ever asking their, and so they're having 60, 70% of their income being paid by outsiders, non-residents.
So an income tax would allow you to budget better and save more money for the citizens, is that right?
Flexibility. Yeah. Our goal one of these days will be to cut property taxes. We're driving people on fixed incomes big time. That's an issue, but definitely an issue. Any other softball question? You call that a softball question? Softball, that's like a deep philosophical question. Yes.
Just a statement that 2 weeks ago with that storm that came through in the coldness. As employers in the community, you can get tricked into thinking that the roads are perfectly fine because you guys do such a great job in Beavercreek and in the township. I've got a boy that lives in Xenia and a daughter that lives in Fairborn, and you could drive just a couple of roads away and it's totally different. And so when you're trying to decide, are you staying open or closing, you guys do a fantastic job, and just to be commended with how you handle this.
Thank you. That was tough, because you know, when it was 10 below zero, I'm sorry, salt doesn't begin to be effective till 15 degrees. So when it went in the deep freeze, we're just like, oh my gosh, you know. And the guys over to Christmas Eve, and they were in, and I'm sure Alex's crews, they worked hard. They were wore out, but thank you. And that is always true, that Beavercreek is known, we're known for doing our best with what we're given. We will always do our best with what's given. But a lot of times what that does is like a paint job on a 76 Vega. Underneath it, man, that paint job looks nice, doesn't it? But it's still a 76 Vega. And we can only put the paint job over, somebody said a lipstick on a pig or something. but we can only do that so often before eventually the Vega breaks down and it's discovered, you've been driving the 76 Vega the whole time. Yeah, we've been trying to tell you that. But anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's an honor to serve.
I had to pull the quote real quick. I really like this quote. I think you'll appreciate it, Pete. For those who've never heard it, this was by Jean-Baptiste Colbert, who worked at in the court of King Louis XIV, maybe a couple hundred years ago. He says, the art of taxation consists in so plucking the goose as to obtain the largest possible amount of feathers with the smallest possible amount of hissing.
Stop share.
That actually, and so the public started looking like, oh, appreciate that. Let's see, let me get back to my notes here now.
I didn't have my flash of those.
Like, donate, we got a Jedi, you will be.
Softball. I would like to throw a rock.
Thank you, Beth, for making it happen. Let's see, did you sign it already?
Yep, I signed it.
Steve, thank you so much, sir. Okay, next week we have Beth and Dave as greeters. We have another state of the township with Mr. Alex Sahara on Beavercreek Township. And let's see, we have Monday morning, 7 a.m. coffee. This one's going to be at Coffee Hub on Dayton Xenia. I'll send out an email on Sunday as a reminder, 7 a.m. So with that, is there anything else for the good of the club? Sir.
So in last couple of weeks, we've had a few little fires. They've turned out the cooking fires, kitchen fires. So we just want to remind everybody, pay attention to cooking is one of the leading cause fires around. So please attention to the road.
And be careful on your roof.
With
Anybody else? Well, okay, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gentlemen, have a good week. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. Sir? I need your people. Yeah, yeah.